I'm Jason Klamm, and this is the Comedy on Vinyl podcast. The year is 1998. The album is Funhouse. The artist Dana Gould, and my guest is Woody Battaglia. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Jason.
You host a delightful podcast called My Minute with Andre.
Oh, you're so kind.
And it's fun, and it was fun for me to be on, especially since you let me ramble for like 3 hours for some reason.
We definitely ended up talking quite a while on a wide range of topics, most of which were cut out just in the interest of time. Not because you're not delightful, but because my listeners are like, make with the Wallace Shawn.
Oh, okay, sure, that makes sense. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself, other than your podcast about My Dinner with Andre.
All right. Aside from my podcast that is only about My Dinner with Andre, I also have other interests. So I am a stand-up comedian. I live and work in Western New York. I live in Rochester, and I play around the region currently. I'm also host a radio show called Almost Tuesday. That's a comedy variety show that airs Monday nights around here on a station called WAYO, and just I have a huge interest in comedy, and I've listened to your show for a while as well. So I was excited to hear from you about being on my show.
What kind of stuff is on your radio show? The only reason I ask is because I never grew up with comedy as an option on radio, so I'm always curious.
So it's a variety show, meaning that we also have live music performance every episode. So it's
awesome.
It is like a miniature, no budget version of maybe a Saturday Night Live, or also has a lot in common with like the Best Show with Tom Sharpling. So we do a variety of different comedy segments. We'll do sketch stuff that we've written. We'll also do sort of improvised comedy segments. We'll also do segments where we're just talking about whatever, and then we also have guests. So like recently we had on LA comedian Barbara Gray. We've had on Nathan Rabin.
Awesome.
We've had National Public Radio's Jesse Thorne. We've had a bunch of we tend to pull in some notable people to call in and talk to us or be live in studio. We're also kind of on the pulse of the comedy scene out here in upstate New York and extending into New York City. And we have a lot of we're just kind of documenting a lot of comedy and also making up a bunch ourselves.
That's delightful. Can people stream it anywhere, or is it only on terrestrial radio?
Oh no, of course you can stream it. So you can stream it at WAYOFM.org. That is Monday nights Eastern Time, 9 to 11 p.m. And then also we put it out through a service because we also play copyrighted music and stuff. We use a service called Mixcloud for our archives. So that's mixcloud.com/almost Tuesday, because they take care of the licensing for the music stuff. So that way I don't have to chop up the show into tiny pieces and put it out iTunes style, because obviously you throw that stuff in there and it will eventually be rejected.
Right. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass. Okay, so let's do this. Dana Gould's stuff was released eventually on vinyl, not originally. So like we said, this is a 1998 album.
Right.
When did you first hear it?
So I first heard it pretty close to when it came out. I think I was actually living in my first apartment I probably heard it in 1999 or 2000. But I had heard a bunch of this material on TV prior to this, because Dana Gould was in the 80s and 90s one of these perennial comedians who you'd see on all of the television showcase shows like Evening at the Improv, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I had seen a bunch of these bits. He was a person who I never knew his name, but I knew stuff from his act, and then I learned who he was later on when I was searching for comedy to listen to and watch when I was living in my first apartment with my roommates. And we were all big fans of like Mr. Show, and Dana Gould's kind of Mr. Show adjacent, like sort of in the alternative comedy, boom of the mid-late 90s.
Sure. I used to think he was Paul F. Tompkins. When I was a little bit younger, I confused him and Paul F. Tompkins. Now, their voices aren't even that similar. They look a little similar when Paul does not have a mustache.
Sure.
I call him Paul because, of course, we're best friends.
You and Paul.
On a first name basis.
Your buddy
Know,
PFT.
me. Yeah. We've been in a room together once. Yeah, I used to confuse the two of them, and eventually it sort of became clear that they're very, very different men, including in terms of style, although I don't know what kind of comedy Paul F. Tompkins was doing at this time. Now, I'll just tell people, so, I enjoyed a lot of what I heard. It's a little dated.
Oh, it is. It is. And that's part of the reason that I picked it, because I thought we'd have a lot to talk about, because I know that you...
Yeah, there is.
I know on your show you cover a lot, what you could say and what you can't say, or, well, whatever. You can say anything you want, but what probably isn't going to get a good reaction from an audience these days, and what people would find to be questionable or offensive or hurtful to some people or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, and much as like I might listen to it and be like, well, he means well. It's also like, well, okay, that's fine if he means well, but he still said it. But there's some really funny shit on it too. Like there's genuinely some very, very funny stuff. You can tell that his voice. You can tell what of his voice has flavored The Simpsons since he started writing on it too.
Absolutely.
It's so weird to me that this guy's particular obsession with particular parts of pop culture have made their way. I don't know. I'm not articulating it properly. Maybe you can say it better, because I feel like you're probably more familiar with his work.
I know exactly what you're trying to say. Like, so Dana Gould has a few different fascinations which sort of translate themselves into pop culture. He is obsessed with old science fiction and movies and monster movies from like the late 60s and backward. So anything up to anything from the Universal monsters up to Planet of the Apes is all in his wheelhouse. And Planet of the Apes is like his favorite movie. He's been on a lot of podcasts talking about it. He has his own podcast where he's talked about it at length. And then also just old Hollywood culture is a thing that he talks about a lot. Like old pulls of actors, even if they weren't actors in like monster movies or anything. He's sort of the guy for those references. Also things like UFOs and anything that you'd find on the X-Files, that's also like kind of in his
right.
Yeah, and then also like 90 or 80s alternative music like the Smiths and things like that. For example, on this record.
It's a very particular world he lives in. He's fortunate, because I've talked about this before. There are a bunch of people who I've met who they'll tell me these stories. So I'm getting them like third or fourth hand, like their associations with old Hollywood, because I love old Hollywood. But I'll speak to people. They're like, yeah, I was speaking to somebody who's been on the show before.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, did I tell you? We were just having a conversation on the phone. He's like, did I tell you I was friends with Milton Berle? And I'm like, fuck no, you didn't tell me you were friends with Milton Berle. This guy is too young to be friends with Milton Berle, but he knew him. Right, it's insane. And like he got to walk into his special humidor in this cigar shop, and he said, hey, give Dan a box of my cigars, the good ones direct from Cuba. And like, so I'm just like, you motherfucker. And I mean that in the politest way, because I love this particular Dan. But it was just like, god damn it, like that's a world that I've missed. And Dana Gould is there on the cusp too of like they weren't all dead yet.
It's true. And he made friends with Vampira.
Oh my god!
Like he was actually supporting Vampira in the last few years of her life. He was like paying her rent and like taking her to the doctor and stuff like that, because he had befriended her. And it was kind of she had seen the same situation with Dana Gould as like Ed Wood and Bela Lugosi in the movie Ed Wood.
Yes,
it's basically the same relationship where he finds her and then he becomes her like benefactor because he's a super fan from his childhood.
Is it weird that I partially, and I feel like Dana Gould probably had this too, and that's why it happened. You kind of, if you're me, you're like, I kind of want to be that guy. I kind of want to be the guy who takes care of this legend who is unappreciated.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know. Is that? It's
a
like weird thing.
One day I hope to do this with Steve
Oh my God! I mean, I'll settle for Steve Gutenberg if that's what it has to be. That's fine.
I'm trying to. It was my first poll of like somebody that from my childhood who isn't doing a ton of work right now.
Right.
Is probably good, but I think Gutenberg's probably doing fine.
he's probably doing fine. Yeah, absolutely.
He probably doesn't have to work. That's the thing.
That's a solid one. No, that's pretty good. I interviewed this episode will. Yeah, this episode will have run before yours does because these are now way behind.
Yeah,
but
I'm
Paul
way behind
Dooley.
Is what's happened.
I get it. No, we both are. I interviewed Paul Dooley the other day, and he's a delight. And I didn't realize he had just turned 90. So he's not only been in forever, but he also, we're talking after the interview shuts down, of course. He's like, and then I met Buster Keaton. He was my hero, and I got to meet Buster. I'm like, oh, shit, there are some people around who legit got to meet some people that I would have killed to meet. Like, he met Buster Keaton. He also talks about how on his second or third Robert Altman movie, Robert Altman had never read anything he'd written or knew if he'd read anything. Like, hey, you want to write a movie for me? Like, he's had these very weird Hollywood experiences that he is just like, he gets to rattle off. And I'm like, damn, that's the kind of Hollywood that I want a little bit of a connection with.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so much fun.
Yeah, that's the idea that there's still people alive who have like these stories from a time when things are like simpler or like it was smaller. There were maybe fewer celebrities. There were fewer
for sure.
There was less money somehow. I mean, even though these people were rich, it was like movies weren't making billions and billions of dollars.
Yeah. I actually kind of wanted to ask Paul Dooley about this because where I interviewed him was in Toluca Lake, California, which at one point was basically owned by Bob Hope. Bob Hope basically owned this entire part of L.A.
Oh, really?
And I don't know enough of the details. I've forgotten to add. That's a guy that I'd like to interview somebody about. Again, I'm sure the previously mentioned Dan. I'm sure. Oh yes, he did. He wrote for Bob Newhart on one of his last specials. That's one of the or not Bob Newhart. Bob Hope. Sorry, wrote for Bob Hope on one of his last specials. And I'm like, God damn it, you were like 20. How'd you get to write for Bob Hope? And why would he? That's whatever. That's fine. I'm very jealous. I'm very jealous of these guys. So when you first heard this, like I can definitely tell if I had listened to this because this came out when I was 18. If I'd heard it when I was 18, I wouldn't have noticed any of the stuff that I now might be a little irked by, and I probably would have loved the shit out of this album.
Yeah, that's the thing is that at the time I think this is representative of like the cutting edge of comedy at the time. Mm-hmm. Because I mean, this is the alternative era where it was okay to talk about weird pop culture stuff, which was a thing that really wasn't in comedy before, I think, nearly as much, because everybody was trying to play to the biggest audience possible. This is where comedians like dug in and found their particular audience, and it was the same audience of people who might go see Dinosaur Jr. would also be interested in going to see Danny Gould or Sarah Silverman or Mark Maron or whoever, David Cross in the 90s. So I think that at the time I was like, oh, here's somebody who talks about things that I also kind of know about. And I'm not into monster movies as much as Danny Gould, but I definitely identify, like he mentions Nine Inch Nails in here, which is a band I listened to when I was in high school, and I was like, sure. And for me, that's like, oh my God, there's a new generation of comedians who can do, and it was actually one of the things that inspired me to do comedy myself, because I'm like, oh, okay, it's okay to talk about the things that are in my real life, and also it was progressive for its time. Now I know that there's plenty of stuff in this record that's crazy. You wouldn't, I mean, and he wouldn't do it now, but back then, I mean, like he's talking about how he has a gay friend who he's trying to introduce to his parents, and this whole thing where he's trying to, I mean, the fact that like he's like, I'm cool with my gay friend, but I think my gay friend should jump back into the closet for when my parents visit, is very much a totally fine thing, and good for you, buddy. Back in and now it's completely crazy to any of us,
Right? Yeah, and it's at the very least a bit like that plays a little more like you can sort of get it. And honestly, to me, my favorite stuff on here is his most absurd when he gets to the less. honestly, the stuff that's maybe a little bit less about his actual life, like specifically when he's talking about old ad slogans, like the very simple ones that are very stupid,
it's
and he
maybe the
says
best
something
bit on the
about
album.
if you don't like milk, try sucking my ass. If I remember, something to that effect.
Milk, enjoy, and if you, what does he say? Milk, enjoy it, and if you don't, why? Or oh shit, I can't remember now. But it's like, yeah, but why try sucking my ass is the punchline, or why not try sucking my ass? And yeah, I think it was like cheese, you fuck, or something like that. Yeah, I really enjoy that bit. I enjoy the, let's see, where they're doing the pitches for what Neil Armstrong's going to say when he steps out to the moon. I think that's great. I think that the Vincent Price dating bit is very good because his impression is so good.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's another thing that I guess I didn't expect with him. I honestly didn't expect him to be a voice guy, because I'm realizing now I've seen him on stuff. I know he writes for The Simpsons. I don't know that I've ever heard his comedy before today. People would be like, "What are you doing?" Well, it's like, obviously I listen to a bunch of old shit, so
right.
I'm still catching up.
Yeah.
So I guess I didn't expect the voice stuff.
Yeah, it's funny that, and I don't think I thought too much of it at the time either. But doing impressions, I think it used to be more common to do a ton of impressions, and now I feel like you're either an impression guy or not. I feel like you're either James Adomian or you're somebody who completely doesn't ever do impressions. And Dana Gould is kind of this hybrid where he's doing regular, classic stand-up stuff about like relationships and his parents and his regular life or whatever, and then he's also going into a fantasy place where he's doing impressions of actual celebrities, or a lot of his bits have like a real act out a sense to them, where he's like acting out a scene and he's really going for it. I like how earnest he is, and that he performs these bits for real.
Yeah, I feel like that's the kind of, being the ham that I am. Like, if I were to do stand-up, which will probably never happen, that would be where I would fall, because in conversation I find myself doing voices whether people want to hear them or not. So I wonder if he's that kind of guy in conversation too. He strikes me as it, though he might be.
I'll bet that he is, and I'll bet that he's a real talker. I mean, he has his own podcast called the Dana Gould Hour, and it's 3 hours long. First of all,
woof. Holy shit.
And it's him. He only puts it out once a month, so but he talks to, it's kind of like he weaves together different interviews that he's recorded at different times, so they kind of jump back and forth with like some interstitial music, and then he does some monologuing, and he has like a comedy bit that he does with John Ennis from Mr. Show, where they're like two guys from Boston chatting about whatever. So he does a lot of, and he's doing like a Boston voice in that too. I mean, he's from Massachusetts, but he really hams up the Boston accent for some bits that he does. But yeah, going back to what you said earlier, though, it is interesting that like his sensibility of old timey movie culture and monster movies and stuff like Planet of the Apes and stuff like seeps into The Simpsons, which he wrote on for something like 10 or a dozen years or something, up until just a few years ago, and then he went out and now he makes his own show on what do you call? IFC. On IFC. He makes a show on IFC called Stand Against Evil, which is...
Oh, I'm an idiot. I've seen that show, and it's delightful.
Yeah, he's the series creator and the writer for that show, basically.
And he plays, interestingly enough, because he talks about...
I actually haven't seen the show, so you got one up on me there.
It's not bad. I like it quite... I mean, I watch it for Janet Varney, who I adore. She's so much fun to watch.
Love that, Jamie.
And John C. McGinley.
Sure. Okay.
And it's fun, and Dana Gould plays a character on there who's I mean, he's just the what do you call it? He's the groundskeeper at the cemetery.
Oh, okay.
And so he gets to play the old creepy guy, which kind of he talks about on this album too, except he talks about him at the dump.
Right.
The one-eyed guy at the dump.
The guy at the dump.
That's always there's this weird thing of specificity in comedy that is clearly specific only to you, but you're good enough to suck the audience in, so they're like, yeah, of course there's always that guy with one eye at the dump. Like, everybody laughs at that specificity as though they know it, and they're like, no, I'm along for the ride because it clearly is important to you.
I never went to the dump as a kid. I didn't have. We had. I lived in the suburbs, but we had garbage pickup at our house,
Uh-huh.
so never had to go to the dump. I do notice that he qualifies it before he says he says here's the thing that only men who grew up in the suburbs will understand.
Uh-huh.
And he says that, and obviously he gets the whole room anyway. But
Yes.
but it's interesting that he qualifies that, and that I mean, it maybe things were different when he was growing up versus that. Maybe garbage pickup to your suburban home was not a thing
Right.
until 15 years later when I was a kid. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very funny. Again, and you wonder how much of that specificity is like, let's see what I can get people to agree with, like just as an
Right.
experiment. How about your stand-up? I mean, like, what's your ratio? I don't expect an actual bit of
Oh,
math,
let
but
me
what's
just
your
go
ratio of
back and
actual
add
personal
it all
shit to
up.
not?
uh,
Yeah.
you mean like personal, like stories about myself versus just bits about the world in
Yeah.
general? I would say it's about half and half.
Okay.
I find that doing the personal bits where you talk about your real life or things that are introductory to, hey, these are things about me that you should know, which is going to help the rest of my stand-up set. Like I front load a lot of stuff about my life right at the beginning, and then that way it's like people are used to who I am, and then I can take them on a trip anywhere else, I guess, and
Yeah.
talk about just things from my point of view that are just stuff that I talk about. Like I do, things about like jobs I've had, and I don't know. And then yeah, I would say something like half and half. I might go back and forth between things, and and also it depends. Like sometimes you don't want to do a ton of personal stuff, and sometimes with an audience that is not necessarily there for comedy. Like if you get on a,
Yeah.
I've done shows where it's like somebody asks you, "Hey, can you come and do 5 minutes on this show?" And it's some kind of a dinner, and there's a local politician speaking, and then they're gonna eat, and then a band's gonna play later. And for some reason, I've figured out how to squeeze comedy into this thing. And by the way, I'm paying you with dinner, and these people don't know you for these people didn't even know there was going to be comedy on the bill. They just knew about a free meal, or they're friends with this politician or whatever, or supporters. And then you have to go in there, and it's like, surprise, it's comedy, and you're trying to get like a bunch of people with like chicken in their mouths to pay attention to you. And
Right.
and in those cases, it's less fruitful to be like, let's talk about me. You just have to go for the broad stuff, or maybe even like more pop culture stuff where you can try and find common ground with people in a really short period of time.
There's not a lot of other art forms, I don't think, where you have to necessarily, for time or for audience, cut down, go from like lengthy art piece to pop art piece. Like you can do it in other art forms like music, but it's not
Sure.
that often. Stand-up's one of those that's so adaptable that you just have to be like, oh no, this entire piece of this thing that I might consider my art, I have to excise for the sake of these weirdos in this audience.
Yeah, it's true. You really do. And when considering the audience you're in, and especially in the place where I am, like I've been doing comedy for 6 years now, doing
Hmm.
stand up for 6 years. I've been hosting comedy shows for 5 years. I've been on the radio for 3 years, whatever. But we're still at a point, and I'm still in the sort of a region where you're going, where it's not like you have these big sets of fans or a huge audience who's coming out to see just you. So you have to reintroduce yourself to people almost every time you go on. And
Yeah.
so you're never a known quantity. Like I assume that Danny Gould is doing this show, this his first comedy record. He's doing it like friends of his are in the audience, or people know him
Yeah.
around town. He's in LA. At this point he has been on TV doing stuff.
Sure.
He's written for TV. He's been in sketch comedy stuff, whatever. And so he's sort of a known person, and people kind of know what to expect when they're going to see him. And that's not the case when people come to see me on a show for the most part. For the most part. I mean, it's stuff that I do every week. People understand that. People listen to the radio show understand that. But when I go out there and do some stand-up gig that somebody booked me on, then you have to decide, oh, this thing that I love, this sort of, artier piece like you're saying, that has like some sort of a message that I'm trying to put out there, like about me or about the world or about something that I think that about a deeply held personal belief or whatever. Sometimes that stuff falls to the wayside just for the sake of survival in a semi-hostile environment.
Right. Do you think most people, okay, so I don't know the sales numbers on an album like this, but let's assume they were good enough for him to keep going as a person and as a comedian and make another album.
Sure.
Do you think the people who are familiar with him feel familiar with him or feel familiar with, this is a guy who has made me laugh before? Do you think there is actually as much as we give credit to this idea that, hey, they should know something about me, they should be comfortable with me, familiar with me? As you say, you've got to do exposition, and which I imagine is also funny exposition,
Sure.
which is a challenge.
Yeah.
Right? But then you've got somebody like him who's like, I've seen you a bunch, you've never made me cringe, or you have made me laugh every time, therefore I'm familiar with that, rather than I'm familiar with you, even subconsciously from your material. Like, I wonder what the majority of people knew him from by the time, maybe his next album comes out. Like, do you have any perspective on that? Because I'm just curious, because do you really need to make people know who you are and give a shit who you are? Or is it a matter of, I've seen you be funny before, that's enough for me?
I think it's probably more the latter.
Yeah.
I think that I don't think people have to be like, oh, I haven't seen Dana Gould's stand up in particular, therefore I'm not sure I want to go see him do stand up.
Right.
You know what you do? You find and this is what happens, like the comedy club circuit, even the best rooms or whatever, they're bringing around people who are known from TV in some way. Now, some of those people started out as professional stand-ups and then got on TV, like Dana Gould, and then some of those people were TV people in comedy on television in some way, but were never stand-ups and had to learn it because they had the opportunity to go on the road, because you can sell tickets for somebody that people are familiar with on TV or who have been in the movies or something like that. Like, like Steve-O from Jackass, he was never a stand-up, but
Right.
he literally does comedy club stand-up-esque tours. And, much to the chagrin of many comics who wish that, that it was, for the art of it or whatever. But yeah, but no, people who go see Steve-O, they don't care. They don't care if they've seen him tell jokes before.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's the weirdest shit that I've ever heard. Now, like, I've seen people say, hey, look, Jake the Snake Roberts is at a club. But like, it's clear that, oh, he's telling stories from his wrestling days. He's not necessarily doing stand-up, I guess, but he's getting booked in stand-up clubs, which is fucking weird.
Right, yeah, it's the same kind of, it's similar, although I'd rather see Jake the Snake or whatever, Mankind or whatever. I'd rather see them than Steve-O, who wasn't, I mean, the thing about wrestlers is wrestlers are professional talkers as much as they are athletes. So,
and he's a guy who's like, I've been hitting the balls a bunch. Hi. Like,
right.
That's like, what else? Like,
and
what else does he have to offer?
They've done presentational things into microphones, whereas Steve-O was just a maniac, lighting fireworks out of his butt, snorting wasabi or whatever. But they never had to learn to talk and get laughs or anything. The laughs are it's completely physical comedy. So like, and then Steve-O, I guess I haven't seen this, but he's been to my town many times. I have not attended. I apologize, Steve-O, if you're out there listening. But but I understand that he does a couple of like stunts that you can do inside of because he's also like he's also a clown. He went to the clown college.
That I did not know.
He's a real deal clown, that Steve-O. He went to the Ringling Brothers Clown College, and so I guess he's got physical stuff that he can do on stage. But then I guess the rest of it is, one time we were on the set of Jackass and we did blah blah blah, or whatever. God,
Yeah, see, that's weird to me. It's like oh hey, it's the 30s and we got this circus geek who's out of work. He used to eat the heads off of chickens. He wants to perform now.
Yeah.
You got any bits you can write for this guy?
Right.
And really, I mean, you'd have to. All his bits would surround eating the heads off of chickens. That would be everything he'd have.
Most
to
of the
talk about.
bits, yeah. You ever see one of these chickens? Chickens, am I right? You see them? They're out in the yard. Too much.
They say they can run around with their heads cut off. I had to test that theory once, but I didn't have an axe around, so I bit its head off.
I bit its head off,
Yep, that's all it is. I almost delivered that Norm Macdonald style, and I apologize. I'm stealing that from my buddy Alan, who does a very good fake Norm Macdonald joke in his act.
I love Norm Macdonald so much.
Oh, it's hard not to like Norm Macdonald. He's still good, and I don't get it.
Yeah,
there
because
are a lot of guys in his generation who have aged out already.
Right,
which
because
is weird.
he's also kind of a dinosaur in his beliefs or whatever. Well, Danny Gould has remained a questioning, a seeking person who does still like to push it, but has figured out, but also wants to do well in the room and has retired. I mean, I'm sure he retired these bits anyway because he wrote new material and started. He actually took a huge break from stand-up, working on The Simpsons and having a family and stuff, and then came back to it in like the last 5, 6, 7 years, and put out like 2 or 3 more albums, which are also very good. Which are very good and much more modern. You can see the difference. It's not a situation where it's like, like Tim Allen is out here, the last man standing or whatever. Dana Gould has remained a person whose thoughts have evolved on a lot of these issues. I've heard him talk about how he would not, like, for example, there's the huge use of the R word in this album. And you can tell that, like, that's the culture that he comes from. Yeah. Where you just say that and nobody cares, and who cares of it? And he realized at some point that was hurtful. I listened to him. He was on an episode of the Jordan Jesse Go podcast in like maybe 2009, 2010, something like that. Like way back when they were new. And that's like a long time ago now. And he talked to them about how he realized that word was hurting people, and enough people talked to him, and then he stopped doing it. Like he won't do, like, people would request that bit and he wouldn't do it anymore.
Well, and that's I would say the minimum you could ask. Most people don't meet that minimum, but I'm glad that he does. Like he's one of the, and I kind of assumed when you and I got to talking about this he just strikes me as that kind of guy where he would be like, well, maybe, because especially if you listen to the number of things in this album that are trying to portray him, he's trying to portray himself as an open-minded dude.
Sure, he is, yes.
So, and I mean, you either do that because you're actually a monster or because you're trying to point out, hey, I'm on the side of probably several people in this room. I don't want you to think I have any hate in my heart.
Sure.
And so...
And I don't think the bits are hateful as much as they are ignorant. Ignorant
Absolutely.
of the idea that there is somebody... Like, because I think the old theory with the R word in particular, which I'm not even going to say, we know the one, the ableist slur. I think that it used to be like, well, where's the victim of this crime? Because there's none of those people in this room or something like that.
Right.
And maybe because of their disability, they might not understand that you're making fun of them anyway, blah, 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 that kind of stuff, which is horrible. That's not, like, that's the old way of thinking about things, which is a bad way to think about things, which I completely reject. I just want to go on the record and say that. I do think that Dana Gould is probably one of those people who just didn't realize, and because of the culture that he comes from, like, and nobody told him, or who knows what, he hadn't thought it all the way through, that guess what? There's also people who have friends and who have family members who are mentally disabled, and then also that just general people out in the world think that it's not nice to punch down, and I think at some point he probably figured it out, and now he doesn't do any stuff like that. So
what's interesting is he leans into the word. He starts out doing a bit where the word is almost used clinically, because he's talking about somebody I can't remember what the bit is.
His dad. He's saying that his dad would point out. He's like, every town has a town person who is disabled,
Uh-huh.
let's say, and which also is a weird old thing. He comes from a small town, so maybe
Yes.
yeah. So and then his dad, when they were driving, would point out to his mom, "Oh, there's your boyfriend," pointing to that
Yes.
person, which is a horrible thing. And he was pointing it out as his dad being shitty.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Exactly.
he's on the side of not making fun of that guy in that way, but then he goes on to, and then he uses a voice,
Yes, he does. Oh boy.
and that's really the bit. That's the bit that he refuses to do ever now.
Right.
For sure, is that like, because he said people used to ask for it, and where it was the bit where he's saying that that wouldn't it be terrible, or like it's like if an intolerant person suddenly became mentally disabled, or
Yes.
then and then they were upset about it, and then he acts it out.
Yeah, and it's
Like,
isn't it?
like what
It's
if you
this
woke up and it
weird-
was like your just desserts order, but the supposition of that bit is that the premise is, oh, wouldn't it be horrible to be a disabled person?
Yes.
Like a fate worse than death, basically.
Right.
And that's not cool.
No, no, and it's weird because the perfect irony there is like, hey, I'm trying to be open-minded here.
Right.
And at the same time, the only way I can display it is through this other set of ignorant suppositions that I've just got built into my brain.
Yeah.
And, I do respect people working past it, and because I try so hard, like, not to be, well, I don't try not to
Not
be a
to
bleeding
condemn
heart. 'Cause-
people out of hand or whatever.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
completely.
I am a bleeding
Which is
heart.
tough in a lot of
anybody who
cases.
listens, like, yeah, it really is. It really is. Especially, I've given a little more, leeway to people who are not Bill Cosby and Woody Allen. You know what I'm saying? Like, they unfortunately have set this standard of low as people, where it's like, okay, well, your material's not great, but you're not that guy. So I'll give you a chance to evolve. And again, it sounds like Dana Gould has evolved, like pretty properly.
And that's the thing. Like, and the reason I picked this album is because it was part of my formative time thinking about stand-up comedy, and
Sure.
I knew this guy from the 80s and 90s, like doing clean material on TV. I mean, none of this stuff would have ever made it on TV that we're talking about. Even at the time, I don't think anybody was running around with the R word on TV even.
Right.
And I think that and then there's just so much of it that is very inventive and creative, and has and just the kind of the fantasy world that he's building, or the sort of the attention to detail, like the answering machine bit, which is where he's analyzing a message on an answer. For those of you who are too young, an answering machine was like a box that had voicemail in it that was attached to your phone in your own home, and it was recorded on a small cassette tape.
There's a. Sorry, go ahead.
No, but he does this bit where he's trying to where he gets a voicemail from an ex-girlfriend, and it's very quick and vague, and then he starts analyzing it, and he does sound effects. He's like Michael Winslow. He's doing sound effects with his mouth only that are of him playing the tape back and rewinding the tape, the sound of the tape rewinding, the sound of the button being pushed again. And he's got a masterful faculty with that kind of stuff.
I kind of respect that in terms of like, here's where I become a grandpa. I wish a lot of artists and things that became famous had maybe a little bit more of a background in things other than whatever they become famous for. There used to be this cool thing where you could be a triple threat, or at the very least, Jim Nabors, who played this friggin' idiot hick, could also sing like an angel.
Right.
Where it's just, it's always fun to be surprised by people. And, I kind of respect, like, I'm okay with a comedian who can also play guitar. It doesn't bother me. I'm also, like, super cool if you can do a good sound effect. Like, if you could do it well, why not do it? Because it does lend something to it.
I think so. And I think that's I feel like people would be impressed today. I think that there's things have swung, and maybe they're starting to swing again, and we're starting to get more silly, which I hope is true. And I have felt, and honestly, I feel like it's held me back in a certain way because I would like to be more like Dana Gould. I would like to be doing more crazy outs or weird sound effects or sing or any of the things that he's doing that are more performative and less just talking. And I think that there was a turn maybe in the last starting maybe 10 years ago or something where the turn was away from Dan Cook and the like, and it was a turn toward that that other monster, Louis C.K. And people in the premium was put on a person speaking sort of seamlessly, conversationally sounding only about their actual life and sort of this sort of verite thing where the premium was on 100% authenticity and honesty, and I am exactly the person that you see on stage, off stage, and that's what we've all been talking about for the last 10 years. And I think that there is, and that back in the late 80s, early 90s, things had gotten a little crazy with everybody doing this sort of canned hacky stuff and the whatever oversaturation and airplane food and everything that everybody complains about that time. And then there was a swing for the alternative stuff in the 90s, and the alternative stuff was a swing towards absurdism.
Right.
And I feel like we could really, at this point, I think I'm sick of everybody to a certain extent only doing this stuff that is this is my life, and it's gritty and it's dark, and there's a place for all of that stuff, but I'm kind of over it at this point, and I've been listening to it, and I've been hearing it in rooms, and everybody wants to do it still, and I'm kind of looking for some silly stuff or some short jokes. I mean, like whatever happened to like Stephen Wright, things of that nature, and what happened to or like another big influence on me at the same time that this Dana Gould album came out was that maybe in 2000-ish was that Eddie Izzard Dressed to Kill special.
Oh, God damn it. That's such a good fucking special.
It's one of the best. Like, if that was an album on vinyl, I might have picked that one just because it'd be so much fun to talk about. Like, it's so quotable. Like, you can, my sister and I still talk back and forth in that language of it. It's, you know.
I think it's fun. I think it's funny. He's a mass murdering fuckhead. Sorry,
in a ditch covered in petrol on fire.
That's also one that I shared with my sister as well. That's a god damn it. If there's any way we can ever swing talking about Eddie Izzard on the podcast, I'll have you on because I could do that forever.
Oh yeah. Oh please, I would love to. And that special, and we were watching Mr. Show, which was super weird and absurd, and the sketches didn't make much logical sense a lot of the time. Or like, here's a weird exercise, and we're just gonna have this guy knock over these thimbles again and again and again for no reason, you know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
What's your position on, and you be as honest as you like, on Carrot Top?
Carrot Top. I think that Carrot Top has been doing his Carrot Top thing, and that and they used to make fun of Carrot Top on Mr. Show. They did. They had a character on Carrot Top or on Mr. Show called Blueberry Head. It was an extremely not disguised
stupid
reference. Yeah, Blueberry Head.
Oh my God. Holy shit.
So I think I was trained to hate Carrot Top, and I was trained to hate prop comedy in that age, and that there was like, it wasn't cool, and there was something about the 90s and the alternative boom, and there was something about Jeannie Garofalo and David Cross and Dana Gould and these people that where it wasn't cool to have props. It wasn't cool to be overly. It was like they could do their little absurdisms and their and their whatever and their I don't care stuff. But I think that like the appearance of somebody trying that hard and putting on an old timey show, basically, because Carrot Top is putting on like an old timey vaudeville act or something. Basically, it's like that's the tradition of it. I haven't seen so much Carrot Top material recently that I couldn't. I mean, like I haven't been to Vegas and seen the show that he's installed doing. But I'll bet you go see that show and you laugh.
That's all I've heard, and everybody says he's a very nice dude. So yeah, it's really weird to me because I when I was a kid, I loved the shit out of him, and then I also fell for the cynicism of the '90s, where I'm like, I shouldn't like you. And then I hear people like, no, I went and saw Carrot Top, and he was fine. He was funny. He made me laugh. He's also a very nice guy, and it's like, well, I have to reconsider now because I just dismissed him out of hand, and then forgot how much I loved him as a kid. Now it might be super cheesy; it's not going to be deep. We're not getting any levels here, I don't think. But
no, it's visual puns, right?
Yeah,
I mean, and it, like I remember hearing him interviewed on like WTF, and he talked about how his like, he just went to an open mic and he had brought like a road sign that he had found. And that he altered it in some way to make a joke out of it, and that all of his other jokes bombed, but people like the road sign, and then like the club manager or the booker or whoever said you should come back, but you should do more of that stuff, and then he built his act that way.
Wow. Shit, it's crazy like how you hear these stories from a certain period where like the club manager or some kind of an agent or something, you know what, no, you know what you are, you're the guy with the flared pants, that's your thing, you're flared pants guy, that's you do that for the rest of your career.
yeah Hello, Sinbad. Really, if you could look kind of like a genie so that people will remember you, so people will make up a genie movie in their head that you don't actually star in, that would be perfect.
Oh my god! It never occurred to me it was the pants that made people think that.
Oh, it's his clothes. You do, you put the racist turban on his head, and he's a genie. He's basically Robin Williams and Aladdin. But what I was gonna what was I gonna say?
I'm sorry.
It doesn't matter. It's just words.
Can I tell you, speaking of words, my favorite line on this, it's so dumb. It's so dumb, but him talking about, and again, it also comes from, I would say, something that maybe he has a little more perspective on, but he's talking about not doing well financially, but he does talk about living above a sex shop and basically subsisting off of day-old chocolate cocks, and that was really funny.
Yeah, day-old chocolate cocks is a great phrase. And then he talks about having to eat them, and he's like, you can just see, the act out of it, and in your head from the noises he's kind of making in protest, because it's like, this should be food, I enjoyed that. Yeah, he was one of those. He moved to San Francisco and built up his act there before eventually moving to LA for, I think, TV jobs.
That's crazy. And what's interesting to me is I don't know if I'll ever get him on the show, but if I do, I realize the first thing I ever saw him in or noticed who he was, he plays a sandwich delivery guy in My Fellow Americans, starring Jack Lemmon and James Garner.
I've seen that movie, but I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, he's just delivering a sandwich. It's like, and then he gets arrested. That's it. He's got like 2 lines in the whole thing.
Are they both former presidents in that movie?
They're both former presidents, and they're both on the run. I still love it. It's just, to this day, it's great. But can I tell you something weird? Guy who directed that also directed the Get Smart movie with Steve Carell, and he literally steals one of his own jokes from My Fellow Americans and puts it in the Get Smart movie. I'm talking beat for beat. Steals his own physical
Wow,
gag.
if you're gonna, here's the thing: nobody saw My Fellow Americans,
I know.
so it's kind of like, well, like I didn't squeeze this one for all it was worth yet.
But it's got pre-West Wing in the White House Bradley Whitford. Bradley
Whitford
Whitford
looks like a guy who works in the White House.
It's true. He's in, I'm gonna guess, his only scene ever with Wilford Brimley. They both have reversed initials. I just realized that. Wilford Brimley tortures Bradley Whitford in a movie.
I like how that's super notable.
In my brain, it is. I was like, why am I connecting them in my brain? Oh, WBBW. There we go. That makes sense.
Of course, that's why they cast them.
Of course it is. That's how all casting in movies works.
Bradley Whitfield's in the casting office with other BWs. we need the right BW to be opposite WB.
Oh man, honestly, it's a movie I won't recommend people revisit it because it's probably just my nostalgia flavoring it, but I love it, and it still makes me laugh.
I saw it when it came out. That's a mid '90s movie, mid to late '90s.
Yep.
So there you go. There's Danny Gould trying to make it in Hollywood. He's one of those guys who did pilot season like X number of years in a row, and none of the shows. It shot a bunch of pilots, and none of them ever went to series. He thought he was going to be a household name, and it never quite happened. Kind of like what happened with Dave Chappelle, except Dave Chappelle went on to have a smash hit sketch show.
Yeah, I can't imagine Dave Chappelle on a sitcom. I mean, I guess I can a little bit, but he broke such ground with sketch comedy that it's like it's okay. Right. At least in my head, it's fine.
He did. I think he did. Dave Chappelle literally did 6 years of pilots that didn't go.
Holy shit!
And he made a ton of money because. Because they pay you to make those pilots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, you go to the right one. You're probably making 6 figures for one episode.
Yeah, exactly. And then they don't pick it up. He was, and I guess he quit. Eventually, he was like, I can't do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then he went off and did his own thing. I guess eventually, or I think Neil Brennan was a big factor in that.
Oh, okay.
Neil Brennan was his co-producer on Chappelle's show.
Oh yes, that's right. I keep forgetting that.
And I think the guy who like got Chappelle to like show up for work and like all this stuff, because Chappelle's like sort of famously always late, and only. And I've heard Neil Brennan say, Dave only cared when there was an audience in the seats, like in like the live audience for the sketch show. So that he said if there were people, and if there were more people, he was more on, and if there were less people, or if they were further away, he didn't care as much and he didn't try as hard.
That's so funny to me.
Like he couldn't act for the cameras; he had to act for the audience.
That's really fucking funny. So here's the thing. I want to make sure that you recommend. Well, you don't have to recommend this album, but if you are going to recommend Funhouse. 1998, Dana Gould. Yeah. I will say our friends at Stand Up Records are the people who released the vinyl version, and that's what I have right here. What's a good reason to listen to this album if you haven't heard it before?
A good reason to listen to this album is that it is a document of a extremely specific time in stand-up where, much like the alternative music boom of the early 90s, like when suddenly Nirvana's the most popular band in the world, the most popular kind of comedy for a brief moment became the comedy of the weirdos with the very specific and nerdy references, but also it had an edge to it. Now, so they were like cool. They were cool and interesting and specific. Now, there's going to be tracks on here that you're going to absolutely hate. And as soon as you hear one of those, you can just skip right ahead. Don't feel like you missed anything. Just skip right ahead. Just take just pull the needle up and move it to the next groove. You'll be fine. But besides those, I think that there are tracks on here that are just as good as anything else ever. And to hear the guy performing his heart out and doing these voices and stuff, but he's doing it in a context where it doesn't feel like you're trained to think it should be, like that it's hacky or that it's Michael Winslow or that it's like how Kevin Pollak will do impressions or something like that. It's not like that at all. I think that there's a cool to it, and I think that it is of its time in a way that's very interesting, and I would be really interested to see if comedy's gonna sort of swing back around in this direction again.
And I hadn't thought of it in the terms you've been speaking of it. Just the idea, just simply doing voices or doing a sound, or like you say, being more performative. I can't disagree with that. I think I like the idea of that happening a bit more. I would love to see that. Is it something that you would be comfortable, like, actually, like, what would it take for you to break out of any shell that might be there to actually do that thing?
I think actually, listening to this over this past week, like over and over again, in preparation for this show has really made me think a lot about what I'm doing and how I have bits where I have a specific bit where which is from my real life, where I'm stopped by the cops, and they think I robbed a bank, but I didn't rob the bank, and then something really embarrassing happens.
Oh my God.
Like I didn't commit the crime, but it would have been more embarrassing if they just arrested me for a crime that I committed, or less embarrassing rather.
Uh-huh.
Like if I had just robbed a bank and they arrested me for it, that would be less embarrassing for what they discovered when they searched me. But I have a whole thing where I'm talking to the police officer and he's like sort of interrogating me, and I would like for that bit to be more, and it works fine, I get my laughs, but I would like it to feel more like I'm really having a conversation with another person, and I think I would actually like to make that cop a character that I'm doing, and to make myself more of a character. I think I would like to do more act outs. I've done improv too, where you're encouraged to do all that stuff, and that definitely helped me be more loose on the stage and more improvisational, which I very much am. I have my bits, and then I go in and out of them and talk to the crowd. I'm not Jimmy Pardo or anything, but but that's what I aspire to. But I definitely would like to. I would like to act stuff out. I would like to try and do more stuff. I mean, I would like if something calls for an impression, I would like to at least give it a shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What's interesting too is I feel like there's this self-awareness and self-consciousness that comes with doing impressions where it changes the timing of a bit. Where if you're just talking and saying, for instance, well, then the cop said, well, and the cop walks up to me, and if you're just doing your voice, you don't have to do any sort of physical separation necessarily, but there is this temptation when you're doing a character to give it some breadth so that there's just distance between your voice and the other voice, which, so it's interesting because it would I would guess it's going to change the timing of a bit if you do
Absolutely.
a voice, but I'm also really want to know what it does to the bit and if it gives you extra confidence, if it changes your perception of your own stuff. That's interesting.
I think it's going to be an experiment. Now I've been teaching stand-up classes for the past few months as well. There's an improv theater that asked me to do it, so I'm acquainted with them.
Awesome.
And it's been really interesting. I mean, like a lot of comics say, I was very inspired by your podcast because I was asked to do this, and I was a little reticent because so many comedians are patently against the idea of stand-up classes.
Of course, yeah.
And because of, there's a lot of bitterness and jealousy having to do with anything where anybody makes any money ever. But the idea that you're ripping people off because you can't teach people to be funny, as if that's what having a class is designed to do. The idea of a stand-up class is like, hey, why don't you get used to all of the apparatus of stand-up and maybe get in a room where you're forced to write some jokes and talk to other people and sort of workshop things and, throw a little bit of theory in there or whatever. And then maybe that'll make you better prepared to have to go into a bar with 0 people paying attention where you have to get up on stage in front of strangers for the first time. Like and you had Jimmy Pardo on here, and he talked about that very same thing, which is also mentioned on Never Not Funny a couple of times. And every time I hear it, it reminds me that I don't have to listen to you shouldn't listen to other comics anyway, because they're assholes. Really
I'm also
even the ones I love and my friends.
I won't go off on this today because I feel like it's an essay worth of stuff, but I'm not a big fan of people believing in and a lot of people that I admire do believing in being naturally funny. I don't believe that. I also don't believe in the word talent. I just don't believe it.
I'm actually in your exact same camp. I think that that's bullshit, and I think that honestly, if you start telling people you're either funny or you're not, then you're just telling a whole bunch of people that they should never even try.
Exactly.
And we're missing out on people who could be some of the great and amazing performers. And it's like, just like anything, it's like if you said to somebody, you're either a banker or you're not. And
right.
And if you don't know how to be a banker right now, then you never will.
Good God, that's the perfect way to put it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, well, geez, I don't know anything. I mean, I don't even know. I don't even know what FDIC stands for. I guess I can't be a banker.
Yeah,
I get well, and there's certainly no way to learn.
Yeah, that's like one of the things we use the word talent to just brush off any skill we've had, and that's like, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
I've tried for years to do this. I think I'm okay at this. I've gotten here because of my own effort, not because I was born with this. Like, what the hell? Like,
Right.
It's just anyway. Like I say, I could go on for
well,
hours.
people talk, and people say things that are the polar opposites of each other, practically in the same breath.
Mm-hmm.
They say, oh, you're funny or you're not, and then they also say it takes 10 years to get good at stand up.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, which is it, honestly? And it's like, so the idea that you can't be taught, or that you can't be funny, people learn to do things. People learn to sing, people learn to dance. Why can't people learn to tell jokes? It's not, it's, and also the idea that jokes are honestly, it's not as mystical as people think it is.
No.
It's like a joke has a setup and a punchline. And if you can remember that, and think about it in those terms, that, hey, here's some context, and then here's a thing that you expect, and then the thing that you expect doesn't happen, and instead I've put a little twist in here and done something different. That's literally what comedy is.
Yeah, people need to calm the fuck down. And like you say,
Yeah,
I
they really
love
do.
the idea, that there are people out there who might be, have this undiscovered talent, and it's okay. Fucking try. It's okay to try. It's fucking okay to try.
It's definitely okay to try. And guess what? That's why there's open mics. No one can
Yeah.
stop you.
No.
If you're out there and you're thinking about, and I just want to say, if you're out there and you're listening to this show because you love comedy and you've thought, oh, I could never do stand up, I could never be funny like those people are funny. And it's like, yeah, neither could they 10 years ago or
Yep.
20 years ago.
Yep.
They had to get up there and be in front of people and fail and fail and fail and fail and fail. And it took, they just had to overcome it. And it's the same thing with, I heard Chris Hardwick say once that you should do stand up 100 times before you even decide if you should continue to do stand up, if you're any good or not.
Yeah.
And so then I did stand up 100 times in my first year.
Holy shit.
And, and after you do that, you're like, well, I'm in it now.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So it was a good goal, and you only have to do it twice a week. And luckily, where I am in Rochester, we have a really good comedy scene. We have a lot of open mics. We have a lot of opportunities to get up, and a lot of people putting on small shows that you can get on. And then we have a club, and then there's the whole region. We have a lot of cities nearby that you can do stuff around in too. So it's worked out really well for me. But there's no reason why, if you think you can do it, don't let anybody tell you that you're not funny. Go up there and prove it.
Absolutely. That's perfect. This is a good way to end it, but let's also make sure, tell people where they can find you and your podcast and your show, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely. So let's see here. So I'm Woody Battaglia. I'm on Twitter at Woody Battaglia. That is WOODY BATTAGLIA. You get the silent G there, like in lasagna. Let's see here. I am my radio show is called Almost Tuesday. That is a comedy variety show. You'll be surprised at how many notable guests we get to call into us here in Rochester, New York. And also, we have an amazing music scene here. We have bands play every week in the studio, which is a whole different kind of undertaking. And that's every Monday night from 9 to 11 Eastern Time. That's WAYOFM.org. And my podcast is My Minute with Andre, which is about my dinner with Andre in unnecessary detail. We go through it a minute at a time, and then there's some bonus episodes with stuff like me meeting Wallace Shawn in real life.
So
and
good.
Stuff like that. Even if you don't know what this movie is, I mean, you'll know by listening to you wouldn't even have to watch the movie, honestly, for the amount that we talk about it.
I didn't.
And you'll be able to hear Jason in a couple of weeks or whatever, depending on when this comes out.
By the time this comes out,
two
it's been out
episodes
for a
with
while.
us.
I'll just say that. I'll just warn you. I'm so behind. I think I'm 2 months behind on episodes now because of how
Great.
crazy
so
shit went.
go back. You can go back right now and listen to Jason on My Minute with Andre. And you can get that anywhere you get podcasts, iTunes, Google Play, wherever the hell, Spotify.
Listen for all the times he had to edit out me shoehorning in my Wallace Shawn impression.
Oh, no. That's all in.
Oh, no.
No. I've kept all of that in, Jason.
Oh, no. The magic.
I just kept out all the shit talking about other famous podcasts.
Thank God. I didn't even remember we did that. I'm glad you did that.
Don't worry. I got both of our backs. As if anybody's going to listen.
Right.
But still, to be polite. Hey, not everything's for everybody. I think that's the important thing to remember.
Exactly. I never tell anybody this, but I'm on Twitter at jklamm, JKLAMM. I've been more active on Instagram at Jason Klamm, which is really what I should have been on Twitter. But if you go to Twitter,
I'm on Instagram too. You'll mostly see pictures of people playing music on my radio show, which will remind you to listen to the radio show, which looked pretty cool. And also, performance stuff around town here. So if you want to look at comedians and look at bands playing in a radio studio, then I'm Woody Battaglia, also on Instagram.
Awesome. And I think the only other thing to say is go to bit.ly/comedy albums. That'll take you to Celery Sound Records, my sketch comedy record label. I'm not going to say it in here because I don't know if we'll have announced it. By the time this comes out, we may have re-released this 1961 stand-up comedy album that is really fun, is out of print, and now we are the ones redistributing it. And we might actually be about to distribute some stuff that nobody has ever heard from another kind of legendary or at least obscure and influential comic. That's all I can say. Just go to bit.ly/comedy albums, and there should be some stuff there. And later this year, my third comedy album with my sketch group will be out as well. And that should be done with some fun guest appearances by people you've heard on this podcast before. That's about it.
Now I'm excited.
So, Woody, thank you so much for doing the show.
Jason, it has been I've heard this show for a couple of years now, and I'm really so glad to have been able to talk to you about a record that was really influential in my life in a weird way, and not because of all the horrible stuff in it. I just want to reiterate.
Well, you're welcome back anytime, and I'm glad that it's in any way affected your life, even if it's just I heard it in my ears a bunch, and that's cool. That makes me happy. Well, thank you guys for listening, and as always, have a good thing. Comedy on Vinyl is a production of StolenDress Entertainment. It is produced by Mike Warden and is hosted and edited by Jason Klamm. Our theme song was composed and performed by Richard Levinson. Please visit StolenDress.com to listen to our other podcasts, read our blogs, read our tweets, watch our videos, and read our books. Please subscribe on iTunes, and if you like us, give us a 5-star rating and a nice review. You can find us on Facebook.com/ComedyOnVinyl, Twitter @ComedyOnVinyl, and find everything else at ComedyOnVinyl.com. A major portion of Comedy on Vinyl has been underwritten by Stand Up Records. Please visit StandUpRecords.com for all your comedy needs and tune into the new Stand Up channel available on the Roku, where you can also find select episodes of this podcast.